Hey there, Peninsula folks and beyond. I'm Barry, your friendly neighborhood Peninsula foodie. Today on Barry's Beach Bites, we're going to take a little side trip down some Libations Lane. We're going to go talk to the folks here at North Jetty Brewing. I get to go hang out with the brewmaster, Titus. He's going to talk to us about the process they use to make some of the most impressive and creative beers that you probably ever had. One of the greatest little secrets we have here on the Peninsula, this little brew pub that we have right here just outside the 101 turnoff here in Seaview. We're going to go inside and meet Titus, talk to him and his assistant brewmaster, see what they got cooking for today. Let's go check it out. All right, guys, we're here inside North Jetty Brewing, back where all the magic happens, and I've got Titus with me here, the brewmaster here at North Jetty Brewing. Titus, it's great to meet you, brother.
Nice to meet you.
Tell me a little bit about what's going on back here. What are we going to start off first with our beer making process?
So today we're making Yellow Boots Kolsch. It's a fan favorite, and we make it in the fall every year. So today we're starting from the very beginning. We're milling our grain, and this is our grain. We're doing 8 of these bags, and this grain comes from Germany.
So this is a bag of malt.
This is a bag of malt.
Malt grain. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is German malt grain that we're gonna mill up, and that's gonna be the base to the beer. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
And a Kolsch for some people who don't know beer. Kolsch is a beer. Yeah, Kolsch is a beer. I make sure we're really light, really crisp, real refreshing. For me, it kind of gives me that thoughts of summer. You know, that late summer kind of nice warm day. You just want something like kind of cool on the palate.
It's a German ale, so they're usually known for their lagers and pilsners, but this one is an ale.
So this is Germany's version of their ale.
Yeah,
that's kind of their jam.
Yeah,
nice. So then we got some little extra bits left over from a previous bag, I take it?
No, so
or is this a different color?
This is a different malt. This is acid malt, so this helps our pH.
I noticed that the grain had a little different color to it than that first bag, so you kind of mix a little bit of this in.
Yeah, so this is going to make our pH in the beer.
Okay, so does that bring it down a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we
so
want it to be
too acidic?
Yeah, we want it to be in a certain range.
Okay.
So we just add a little bit, about 3% per batch. And then
how many bags of the malt are going to be the base for this run of beer that we're going to make?
8.
We're going to do 8 bags of malt, mill all that up, and that goes through there's like this hopper system that kind of goes over. I'm going to turn the camera here a little bit so you can kind of see this. There's that tube that goes all the way over and takes it all the way over to the tank, and that's where it's going to end up starting the process. We're going to add some more goodies to it over there, I know, and keep it going from there.
So each beer has a base malt. This is our base malt.
Okay.
This is where the alcohol is produced. This is good sugar-producing beer.
Got it.
Yeast eats sugar, and then they make alcohol.
So yeast and malt come together. Alcohol is what produces out of that, and that's what we get to enjoy in our libations.
So every beer has a base malt. This is our base malt, and then we add specialties like chocolate malt, caramel malt. There's a bunch.
The list is endless, I'm sure.
There's so many. And then that's how you get like stouts, porters, others by adding specialty malts.
Okay.
Now this beer is very basic, so it doesn't have very many specialty malts.
Okay, so pretty straightforward. Just the straight up Pilsner malt, and then you add a little bit of the other stuff to kind of take the edge off the acidity level.
Yep.
So this stuff's it's milling down. How fine does this stuff actually get milled down to? Is it like a super fine powder, or what's the consistency of this stuff?
Yeah, so that's a good question. We don't want it to be too fine, because if it's too fine water, it'll just turn into like a dough, right?
Like a pound cake inside there.
And we want this to be like a tea. We want water to seep through it, not turn into a dough.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
if you make it too fine, it almost becomes like sand, and the water can't penetrate into the malt.
It'll go around the grain instead of through the grain.
That's not flavor.
Yeah, that's not flavor, and you can't pull all the sugars from it.
Even more importantly, and if there's no sugar,
you got no
that means
alcohol.
There's no yeast. You get no alcohol, and nobody wants a beer with no alcohol.
Exactly.
Well, some people do. I take that back. Some people do. I'm just not that guy.
Some people do.
All right, guys, so I'll tell you what, we're going to finish milling down the last of these bags. After these bags get milled down, we're going to jump over here. Now, I don't want to use the wrong terms. What are these tanks called over here?
So over there is the mash tun and the kettle.
So the mash tun is where it's all getting pumped into now.
Yep.
That's where the water, the initial batch of water is going to go in.
Yeah, mash tun will combine water and grain.
Water and grain,
and then we're going
to add yeast to that. Yet?
No, we're going to add yeast to the fermenter after all of this is done.
Got it.
Yeast is the last step.
Mash tun. So the mash and the water go in the mash tun, and then that'll kind of steep around for a little while.
Yep, steep for about an hour.
About an hour.
Then we run that liquid off, and we rinse all that grain out with more water.
Okay.
And we fill up our kettle. We boil that for about an hour, and then we pump that into the tank, the fermenter, where we add yeast.
Now, the rinsing of the malt that's actually in there, I'm assuming you're doing that to pull as much flavor and as much of the sugar out of that as you possibly can while it's still wet in there.
Yeah, exactly. So when we add water to this grain, we're not going to have enough to fill up our kettle, because our kettle is 310 gallons. So we're not going to have...
That's bigger than this. I can see that from here.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're not going to add 310 gallons to this grain.
Okay.
Because we want to add just enough water that we get a really high gravity or a really high density of sugar.
Okay.
Because if you add too much, you water it down. It's like making a drink, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody wants weak tea.
Exactly. No one wants weak tea.
Nobody wants weak tea, folks. You heard that right here. All right, Titus, I'm going to let Titus finish up what he's doing here. We're going to set up here again in just a few minutes, and we're going to see what's going on over there at the next stage of this process, guys. See you in a few minutes. All right, guys, so we are back up here. We're up here standing on top of Poncho. That's actually the name of this machine that we have up here. We're going to pump all of the mashed malt, the milled malt. We're going to turn that into a mash. That's going to get pumped out in this big old tube right over here, and Titus is going to tell us about what's going to happen.
Yeah, so you got to bring the water up to temperature. We want the mash to be 150 degrees.
150?
150.
Okay.
But in order to do that, we need the water to be 163 degrees.
Okay. So you're just dialing in that temperature right now, adjusting the cold into the hot to get that perfect number that you're looking for.
Exactly.
All right, all right. So is the water going in now, or is it just kind of getting ready to go in?
The water's going in now. All this water right now we're going to use.
Okay. That's kind of getting it ready for the bath at the bottom.
Yeah, so this vessel has what's called a false bottom. So we're getting enough water to just be over that false bottom so the grain doesn't stick to it and we can run water through it.
Okay, is that that kind of piece in the middle looks like a sieve?
So yeah.
A bunch of holes in it and everything else?
Exactly.
Yep. I saw that when I stuck my head down inside there a minute ago. All right, so the switch got flipped. That means the ground up malt, the milled malt's starting to come across now. So that's going to mix in with the water as it's coming in. And then Titus has this big old giant spatula down here. He's going to mix it all up in.
Our mash paddle.
The mash spatula. I like it. You got to really kind of get down in there and loosen it all up. Get everything broken up so it mixes up with the water. And this is the first step in the process of getting beer to become beer. You're pulling all the sugar out of that malt with that water so that the yeast has something to chew on, yeah?
Exactly.
So we're getting ready to feed the yeast. We're not going to feed the beast, we're going to feed the yeast.
Exactly, that's what we do. We just feed yeast.
Right on. You're the caretakers of the yeast. I like that.
We like to baby our yeast around here, give it a complete meal.
So that milled up mash or milled up malt is coming in through the top of the hose right now, coming in, dumping down in there. It's mixing in with the water as it's coming in. And Titus is down there just really digging it around, mixing it all up, getting everything into a nice slurry, getting all that water all over the malt so that it really starts kind of steeping and pulling all that sugar out of there. That's what's going to make that amazing, amazing crispy Kolsch when they're done with this beer.
So I'm trying to make sure that the grain is evenly distributed.
Okay.
So that we don't have any high spots or too low spots.
It kind of looks like oatmeal.
Yeah, exactly. You want the consistency of oatmeal.
It's just a nice hand slurry that looks like oatmeal that inside there. I love it. It smells so good. I love that malty smell.
You definitely can make it too thick and too thin, so you got to keep an eye on it.
So it's a matter of kind of keeping up with the mixing process to make sure there's no cakes or anything starting to form in the corners.
Yeah.
I'd imagine once you get a cake underneath that water, you're not breaking it back up.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's how you get lumpy mashed potatoes too. Nobody likes lumpy mashed potatoes either.
Nice, even, smooth.
Mixing this all up. Now once we get all of this milled malt into the water here, into this tank, we're gonna let this sit, and it's just gonna steep for how long?
1 hour.
So it's gonna steep for an hour. That's gonna let the water pull all the sugars out. Gonna get everything ready. Once the water is nice and sweet, gonna pull all that. That's gonna get pumped out of here. It's gonna go into this tank over here where it's gonna heat up. Yes, we're gonna boil it.
We're gonna boil it for another hour.
We're into a rolling boil for an hour. That's when the magic really kind of gets going, because that's when you add the yeast to it.
That's when we add the
kind of start eating in there.
That's when we add the hops.
The hops go in there first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we pump it into the fermenter, and that's where we add the yeast.
Got it. So the yeast doesn't come in until well after this. So that we're going to cook the hops with the malt.
Yeah.
I'm learning how this process works. I will tell you right now, I will appreciate every sip of beer even more from now on, knowing exactly all the little steps that go in along the way for this. So we'll cook the hops with the malt, cool that off, put that into the fermenter, and that's where we put in the yeast. So let the yeast feast.
If we didn't add any hops to a beer, right? Everyone says, "Oh, I don't like hops. I don't like hops." If we didn't add hops to a beer, you would have a very sweet beverage on your hands.
Okay. So the hops, I know just from my personal experience in the beers that I do like, I know hops, it's like, kind of like a green flowery, almost looks like a little nugget of, like a little pine cone that fell off a tree.
Yeah, yeah.
They smell very floral. They've got a very, very, like almost acidic scent to them. I mean, they've just got an interesting flavor to the palate.
Yeah, so there are so many different hops. So the ones we're going to be using today are traditional. I shouldn't say traditional. They're more of a modern German hop.
Okay.
Probably a better way to say it. So it's more earthy, more floral. Whereas like a modern American hop that we use in a lot of IPAs is more like fruity, more piney.
Okay. Yeah, that's the flavor profile I'm used to seeing around here.
Yeah.
That pine flavor.
Fruity, piney.
I love that. I love that unique, this little zing of pine that goes through the beer at the very end.
Yeah, I do too. I love hops because you can do so many different things with them, and they smell so different. I know, like my wife doesn't think so. My wife's like, yeah, it smells like a hop.
They all smell the same, probably, some people.
Yeah.
Not to me. I think they all have different scents.
Me too.
It's like walking into a garden. You know, you can smell the different flowers, and it's a flower. It's really what it is.
It is a flower.
And it's awesome. I love it. So, you said that you're using a German hop for this as well.
Yeah.
I know that a Kolsch, at least I think I know, Kolsch is more of a German style beer.
It is.
So we've got a German malt that we're using. We're using a German hop. Is that to kind of keep it in the traditional German style of the beer? Is that kind of the thought process there?
Yeah, we could Americanize it a little bit, but this beer is the owner's, one of his original recipes.
Oh, really?
And we don't really want to mess with it.
Hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
That's a great ideology to live by.
So our owners, Eric and Michelle, started this brewery about 10 years ago. And This was one of the first recipes that he made for Michelle. So it's her.
Killed the water because we're done pumping the malt in.
Yeah, so nothing else is falling in. So just gonna give it one last stir.
So Eric made this recipe for his wife. This was kind of his inaugural recipe for the brewery that they had just built.
This is one of them, yes.
Nice.
Yeah. So we
now what are Eric and Michelle's backgrounds? What did they do before doing the brewery?
Eric is a CPA.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's into numbers.
Numbers, guys, I'll tell you right now, that's a great person to have looking at recipes, because this is all about specific measurements and getting things dialed in. I guarantee you, Eric knew exactly what he was doing when he was putting this recipe together.
Yeah, he always thinks, it's like, I really like building it, but running it day to day, I'm fine with you doing that.
Yeah, the coming up with the process at the beginning is definitely way more fun than the everyday rigmarole, unless you love making beer.
Yes.
Which I can tell that you do, Titus.
I do.
You
I do
obviously
love it.
take a lot of care in the work that you're doing here. So
I love it.
knocking everything down.
Just making sure everything's in the liquid, made sure it's nice and level. Now we're just gonna check the time. Oh, I got to do a measurement, make sure we hit the right temperature.
Okay, so got to check some stuff real quick, make sure everything's right where it needs to be.
Yep. And then we're just gonna walk away and let it sit for an hour.
Cover it, let it sit, and then we'll pump it over and we'll cook it up, drain it off, and get it to fermenting.
Exactly.
All right, guys, we'll catch up with you here in a little bit. We'll talk again soon. All right, guys, so while we're waiting for this process to happen, I've got Casey with me here. Casey's the assistant brewmaster here with Titus. Casey's going to tell us a little bit about what the next step in the process just before the beer shows up in these tanks over here. He's going to kind of walk us through this, the prep, the sanitation, and what it takes to get it ready.
So what I've done over here is there's, oh, hold on. All right, so what I've done over here is I've put 15 gallons of water in this tank with about 6 ounces of peracetic acid. Now, peracetic acid is a sanitizer. By itself, it's pretty nasty stuff, but if you dilute it down, it becomes a very powerful sanitizer, fairly safe to handle. And I've ran it through our CIP arm right here for about 15, 20 minutes, and that has sanitized the whole inside of our tank. I just got done running it through our racking arm down here for about 15 minutes, and now I've moved the hose over here, and I've hooked it up here, and it's ready to run through our heat exchanger, which Titus explained before, and it will sanitize all of our piping inside here, so everything will be clean and ready to go to transfer our beer into our fermenter.
Awesome, awesome. So then once we get everything into the fermenter, then it's going to sit there for how long? How long is it going to sit in that tank before it actually is ready to be a beer?
So it'll ferment for about 5 to 7 days, and it will sit for roughly 2 weeks after that.
Okay, all right. So the yeast will do its job for about a week, and then when the yeast is ready to come off, if I remember correctly, I think I'm going to come over here really quick because there's another dealio over here that Titus was telling me about. Kind of this, hey, you can see how this tank, you can get a good idea of it. See how the bottom's got that little point to it down there? That's actually where the yeast will all settle down into, Titus. Is that right? The yeast actually settles down at the bottom, and then they can pull that yeast off, and they can use it again and again and again. You don't want to overuse it because every time they use it, it kind of makes it change a little bit different on the flavor profiles and what it ends up making in your beer. But they'll use it for a few times, pitch it out, get some more. So we're going to see what happens. We're going to head back out there to the tasting room now. We're going to pour off a glass of what this Kolsch is supposed to look like once it's done, but this one's already been ready to go. So we're going to go check it out and see what that tastes like. Then we'll kick it off for the rest of your day, guys. See you in a minute. All right, guys, so we're going to pour off a glass here right now. Unfortunately, the Kolsch is not available, but that's okay. Tell me a little bit about this particular, this similar light beer that we're going to be tasting. This is another one of your staples.
This is another one-off, actually. We've done it a couple times. This is Jetty Light. It's actually been a really big local favorite lately.
Ooh.
It's just an easy drinking.
Super crisp, super easy on the palate.
Yeah, something you'd mow your lawn and drink.
I could totally see that being the end of a busy chore day.
Yeah.
And I just want to sit down and just cool off with a nice refreshing beer.
Yeah.
It's not overpowering on the malt. There's not a whole lot of hoppiness to it. There's just a little bit. You can taste that little bit of
just really enough to balance it.
Absolutely. It's not too bitter. And that's one of the things with that kind of turns me off of some IPAs is they got to a point, we had this conversation earlier, there was that super bitter IPA phase.
When people were just going for the high IBUs.
Yeah. You know, and it was all about the bitter units. And like, no, I don't want the bitterness. I want the flavor.
Yeah.
So this has just the right amount of flavor from those hops in there and the malt. It's really good. This is a refreshing beer. I'm not going to lie, you guys. It's one of my favorites that these guys have made. And we were talking about this just before we started this last segment here. Is their Ecto 1. And I just want to give you a chance to talk about this here, Titus. I know. So I came in a few weeks back and they had this new beer that they were doing. It was an Ecto 1 with a rum-soaked pineapple mixture that they had added to it. Absolutely stupid off-the-chain good. So many really great, there were just so many fruity flavors in there. It was, I could tell that the hops that you guys were using was a really super fruity hop.
Yeah, we used a combination of hops in there that we were going for kind of like a, I don't know, an island sort of theme. Like there was a lot of coconut, a lot of lime, and we thought that would pair really well with pineapple and rum.
It's all tropical, man. I love it. Yeah, no, it was amazeballs. If you guys haven't had the Ecto one, and I can see it on their sign back there, I know they still have it. I'm talking to Titus, they're going to be kind of ever evolving their Ecto series as well. So you're going to see an Ecto 2, an Ecto 3 at some point. Who knows? But I'm looking forward to seeing all the different Ecto beers coming down the pipe from you guys.
Yeah, and they're all going to be on the fruity side.
Nice.
Yeah, that's going to be the whole thing.
Nice. I dig it. Well, hey, guys, make it down here to North Jetty Brewing. Come down here. Say hi to Titus. Say, get down here. Get down here. Say hi to these guys. You've got an absolutely amazing crew down here cranking out some of the best beers you've probably ever had. Amazing little tasting room right here in Seaview across the street from this 42nd Street Cafe. You can't miss it. Come on in, grab a beer, have some snacks, say hi to these guys, and until next time, folks, cheers and beach appetit from your friendly neighborhood Peninsula foodie.